Okay, so yes, we are live, and it is good. I hope you're hearing this. We have like 30 seconds, so we will get started. We just want to make sure that everything is good, and you can hear us here on the YouTube channel. And this should be good. So I'm really looking forward to this session, and I hope you have a lot of good questions about what's coming up. So that looks okay. Cool. So let's get started. Go live. So let's get started. I hope you can see me soon. And this is actually going to be quite interesting, I hope. Because, yeah, we are. So today we just released a new release, and obviously that's something that happens quite often, like monthly. But one of the things that I've really looked forward to is this actually release. You can see the link here. I'll just put it into the chat also so you can see it there. And this is what we will be covering. If you have questions, comments along, this is actually for you. And I think this is actually really an interesting release that we're coming up with. I'll let you judge this. So the first thing we will cover is, as in the last video we did around the topic of migrations, one of the things that we covered there was the fact that that we are looking to improve migration, the experience, and I think the pipeline concept from SAP there is really a useful thing for customers to be using, and that is something we want to enable. We have seen the first customers use the normal part of the process to create these flows, but I think using this new enhancement will make the migration journey a lot easier. But let's get started and show you what we have done right now. So if you go into the Figaf tool and you select an icon, we have these ones here. So what you can do is, if you select here, we can now have two new profiles, pipeline inbound and pipeline outbound. So if you're using the pipeline concept, you will create two different flows for a message, and then you will have some logic in between. We're not there yet with that logic, the XSLTs, and all the partner directory. Give us a few moments, we will be improving on that also. But the thing we have added is the inbound and the outbound part. The inbound, I don't want to talk too much about it, but I guess this is if you have communication channels and you want to add those into the flow, you will use this inbound process, and here we can take your file content conversion, migrate it, and run with it. If you have questions, comments to this section, please, that is really of interest to me. But let's take the outbound, that's the most fun part of it. And we have now added this asynchronous pop-up so you can actually see what's going on. And what you will now see is we can go in and we can select which message we want to include for one migration. So you can, for this outbound process, one of the things that's important is that you can only look at specific messages that is being processed, and that is quite an important part of this. So you can only, if you have a split, you need to create an iFlow for each split. And this is what we have done here, so let's just call it for here. It will be called for. We can check it, we can see what kind of content is related to this. There's a mapping for, let's actually do the other one. Let's do that, let me just call it ERP. We'll check it here again, and now we can see it has a message mapping. We are using this extract to a separate message mapping, so there's a lot of things that goes into this, and yeah, questions, put them into the chat. So what we can do now is we can obviously preview this flow that we will be generating here. It's not as and this is a way to see, does this really relate to what you need to do? If we're satisfied, we will click on migrate, and now we'll be able to see what's actually going on and what is the problems and stuff like that here. It should hopefully work smoothly. Boop. it sometimes takes a little while for us. So now we're doing post synchronization. That means that the iFlow is already created, and that means we can go into this iFlow here and we can see that this iFlow now follows the new standard for this. We have been using this setup here for message split. I think we also added here that you can set the unique ID in here. That is set in the previous step on the pipeline. If you don't know pipelines, it is quite interesting. I think, yeah, go to the blog I put in the comments and check the link to our getting started guide on pipelines. It is an interesting concept that we will be working more on. It will then first call the mapping, and here will call the mapping. This one has then externalized parameters in. All of these different things is just set up here in the mapping. You don't need to do anything like this. So it is just so much simpler to work with. Yeah. Questions? Yeah, put them in chat or just give a high five. That's also good. Yeah, here we can see the concatenated string. We can read the script here that is being used. And obviously we do still have the open in Figaf. This will enable you to take this user-defined function, create a new test case for it, input 1 or whatever. It is not really being used here. You can run it. And now you can actually see what this value is producing. That's pretty nice, but that was a sidetrack. Yeah, so with these pipelines, we have now created the flow and separated it out to different parts. So you have this part about only calling an outgoing flow once, and if it was successful, it will just say, okay, it's done, and complete the process. We also added all the error handlings, etc. So if you're doing migrations and using the pipeline, go give this a try and see if it will simplify the way that you are working with your migrations. It may not be perfect yet, but I hope we will be able to improve some of the different capabilities depending on what you are looking for. If it is, so we do support multi-mapping right now. We may also need to support other scenarios like exactly once in order or in order processing. We don't have that supported yet, but it's fairly small thing to be adding also at a later point in time. But I guess this is about getting some input on these things. Okay, that was a lot of talk about some of the basics of this. But yeah, we are going to add more features in this migration capability because this is going to be important. So please explore it. The other thing we added, and if I just need to go through here, is the landscape report. And so we do have this report here in the overview. Here you can see everything that is going on in your landscape, and so you can see across the landscape what are the iFlows we have. The really cool one is this, where you can see, okay, so what's actually which iFlows is in different state in the different versions. And sometimes we would see that the productive versions on this report is higher than the development version, and then you know you have some problem with your governance and you need to make sure that that does not happen. In the last release we added the option you can now just select a number of these and create transports here. The thing we also added in this report is you can synchronize from here, which means it will just download a version of the iFlows. We have the parameters report that will say, okay, let's, for these iFlows, you can also do it for the full system, but just for the sake of this demonstration, we'll do it here. And what you can now see here in this is all the configuration parameters for all these iFlows in one overview. And so the original one I wanted was when I was working with one of our clients on setting up the transport process, he had a problem figuring out, so what is it that our QA UL is for this system? And if he had this report, he could just generate this report, save it, and then he could actually use it when he was configuring these things. Obviously, I would normally recommend that you go through this report and say, okay, I have services odata.org. It needs to be replaced with qaservices.org or whatever it becomes. You can do that on the landscape item, and there you can go in and define these things. Actually, I think we'll just briefly touch on that in the next. Sorry. Yes. So this is the report. Good. I forgot to change the view. I hope you did not get lost. So this is the report that we have, where you can actually see what is going on for these scenarios. And here you can see that we have the QA services for production and the services. And if you go through this list on any productive system, I would reckon that there are some of these URLs that have not been configured correctly, where you're still using a dev value because someone forgot, or it's not really, it wasn't checked, etc. So this is really a nice way to see what's going on in the system. And yeah, and this was the report we had, where you can see what's going on between the dev and system. And obviously you still have this browse payload here in it, where we also added, where you can see, okay, what are the externalized parameters, which one is not used. So new key, we should probably remove that, so we don't need to spend effort on configuring that and figure out whether or not that is relevant. And we have seen a lot of places where they have these different scenarios that is being configured. Anyway, good. The next is we improved the transports. So if you're a larger organization, transport is obviously quite a big thing, and you need to figure out how do we implement this with Jira, ServiceNow, Solution Manager, or whatever you have in your landscape. And we have now improved the APIs. We have also added this approval list, and this will, on a landscape, when you're configuring it, then you can go in and say, here, between the different transition, who can review this and who can approve this. So you can specify a specific user that can approve it and one that can review this. And this makes it easier for large organizations to run such a tool with these scenarios. And obviously the other thing I was talking about was this parameter replacement. So if you know that you have, for instance, services.dev, HANA dev, or whatever in your landscape, and you know that that is always going to be translated into QA, then you can just use that and set it up, and that will mean you don't need to remember how to translate this. This will just automatically be translated each time you do a transport. This is something that would save you a lot of time, both when you're reviewing changes, etc. And this just simplifies the process. Question, comments, just put them into the chat. I'll try to keep up with this. Yeah, we have a schedule import. That was also something we have asked a lot. It's coming in the next release patch or something. It is developed, but we just needed to do some more Q&A to make sure that it was stable. This is what would enable you to say on Monday or Saturday evening, I want this to be imported. And then it will import it, it will apply configuration, all these things that you normally would do, and hopefully that would mean you don't need to log into the system. You'll get an email notification afterwards if it was configured correctly and everything was happy. So that's also one of the cool improvements that we added. We have this monitoring overview, so we added the same capability that you have in PI that understands what are the messages that has been processed. Before we did not have the retry capability, but I think this is one of the, well, so we had some customers that were looking to this, and once we added the pipeline services, retry also become quite popular, because yeah, these messages will fail. You will be able to see here in the message that there is a number of these messages in status retry, and then you can understand, okay, so how do we actually deal with these scenarios? And then yeah, the thing is, we would the way we have implemented this is we'll just see that there is a message that is in status retry, but we would not be able to see once this message has been processed. So you may need to go in here and check, okay, so which messages was delivered successfully afterwards. But at least you will have an idea about what's going on. And I know some of you have also complained, hey, this one was losing the filters. It does not do that anymore. It keeps the filters that is alive. So that was the main features that we released in this. If you have questions, comments, if you're excited about the the, the pipelines as I am, please put it into the chat. I think this is a good way to get started with these things. So please give it a try. You can obviously sign up for the free migration edition, try out the migration tool, try out the assessment tool for these things, and I think it will give you quite a number of benefits to work with that as a way to deal with your migrations. So any questions, comments, please add them to the chat. Actually, there may be some that I don't see. I saw that last time. So if I don't see your comment, it's not because I'm rude, but just that I did not see it here. And yeah, if you have put a comment and and I don't respond, just reply. So thanks for attending. I really appreciate this. I hope you want to try it out. I hope you check the blog and the video around this, and obviously give it a try. It will take you about an hour to get started, try out the tool, and explore if this would work for your scenarios. So thank you for attending. I really appreciate you. Have a good weekend when you get that far. Thank you.